In the beginning, the gods interfered with the human journey to occupy their endless time on earth until we silenced them, became them. Then it took another 1,000 years for us to find the God within. Now it is we who interfere to occupy our limited time on earth. We who pull apart everything we need and poke at everything that is not us until we fall into the silence that restores what we have known forever but run from. That fame is no reason to do good, and fear no reason to do bad. We're in this section of our book called The Mark of Our Hands. And as I was reading this section this week, preparing for the talk, I'm reading each section, trying to figure out, what part's jumping out at me? What part is really speaking to me to share with you today? No matter what section I was reading, my mind, my attention, that inner draw kept going back to the title of the whole section, The Mark of Our Hands. And I kept trying to ignore the pull. You ever try to ignore that inner pull, the thing that's pulled? You try to ignore it, and it doesn't go away. And I know better. I just, at some point then, decided to practice what I know. So I sat with it. The mark of our hand. What does that mean? What did it mean for me? Why was it, I don't want to say bugging me, but why was it not letting me let it go? The mark of our hands. And the first place I went to was that thought of, when we speak of the mark of our hands, what are we talking about? We are talking about what we're known for, maybe, what we leave behind, the impression we have left. Another word that came up for me is the word manipulate. Now, that word has gotten a bad rap nowadays. The word manipulate has come to mean this idea of getting somebody to do something they don't want to do that we want them to do. And we're going to play some Jedi mind tricks on them and get them to do what we want. Manipulate. But that's not what it originally meant. Before it meant that, it actually meant to be skilled with one hand, to manipulate, to shape with one hand. But then it had another meaning before that. There's one thing I love about this book is the author's love of words and their meanings. So when I find words that I don't know or understand, I usually go look them up. And then I read like the first definition. If I'm really in a good mood, I might read the second. But very rarely do I go all the way to the bottom of that part that says origin of the word. Okay? But I did that with the word manipulate. Origin of the word. The original Latin meaning is two words combined. Manus meaning hand and plere to fill. Manipulate means really to fill our hands. To fill our hands. That's the original idea. And then I realized I get why this title has been playing with me. The mark of my hands. What am I going to, in my life, in my journey, what am I going to fill my hands with? What am I going to fill my life with? What am I going to be carrying? What's the idea that is going to be carrying me through life? What is the impression that I am going to leave in every moment, every situation that I've been in that reflects what I'm carrying and what's carrying me? What will be the mark of my hands? What will be the mark of your hands? Why do we do what we do? What is carrying us? Are we doing what we do from a place of fear or a place of love? Are we doing it from a place of compassion? Are we doing it from a place of obligation? Are we doing things from a place of being or from a place of doing? We do just to do. And here's the problem with either or questions. You know what's the correct answer for an either or question? Yes. Because truly, the either-or questions present the two sides of the same coin. They're inextricably linked, these either-or questions. So when we talk about being or doing, we can't really separate the being from the doing. They reflect each other. What we do reflects who we are, and what we are is what we put into what we do. So we can't really distinguish these two. In the book, I love it, he talks about this Yoruba concept called Iwa. All that informs your existence. It's a word that symbolizes that confluence of being or doing. In their language, there isn't a word for being and a word for doing. There's just Iwa. It's your history, your dreams, your strengths, your weaknesses. It's all that is you. That's what goes into who you are and what you do. By the way, did you know my name was Yoruba? Ogun. Ogun is Yoruba. It is the name of an Orisha, or a deity. Yes, you were in the presence of God. No pressure for me to live up to my name or title. The word Ogun, or the actual correct pronunciation, Ogun, please don't call me that, Ogun. And here I am sidetracking again. When I go to the Unity conferences, the national conferences, there's always a contingent from Nigeria. Unity is pretty big in Nigeria, and that's where the Yoruba tradition springs out from. And I know they're there because from across the hallway they yell, Ogun! You know. Yes, the name is a deity. The deity that oversees many things. Iron, metalwork, is what Ogun reflects. Also, hunting, creativity, truth, accidents. I don't know how all those fit together, but that's what it is. But when you think about it, it's the name represents, again, the fullness of the story, the fullness of my existence, all that I am. This is what that Iwa is. This is what we are carrying with us. This is the mark of our hands that we leave behind. The other thing about this book that surprised me is, as I am reading it, all of these Bible characters are coming up. Usually Bible characters only come up for me when I am intentionally going to talk about a Bible character or about a Bible passage to illustrate a point. But as I'm reading this book, and I don't know, there's maybe a handful of times he mentions anything from the Bible in this entire book. But the story of Joseph started to come up for me. You guys remember Joseph? If you don't, you've definitely heard of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Come on, one of the greatest musicals of all times. But Joseph's story is a story for me that truly illustrates that in life, no matter the circumstance, no matter the situation, the journey, no matter the support, no matter the opposition, no matter the good times, no matter the bad times, when we are clear about who we are, when we are clear about what's carrying us and what we are carrying, when we are clear about the mark of our hands, it's going to be good. So, the Cliff Note version of Joseph. A couple weeks ago, I gave you the Cliff Notes version of Job. This is a Cliff Notes version of Joseph. Joseph was the son of Jacob. Joseph was number 11 of 12 children. How many of you have siblings? Well, you have siblings, okay? How many of you have siblings that run into double digits? Yeah, not as many hands going up right here. Yeah. So, double-digit siblings, not an unusual thing back then. So Joseph was number 11 of 12. He was his father's favorite. Jacob, by the way, also known as Israel. Israel, the name of the whole tribe that was eventually, and his sons, the 12 sons, became the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. So just to give you a little backdrop of what that's all about. So Joseph was Jacob's favorite. And his father rewarded him with this coat, and the Bible talks about this, this coat of many colors, hence the Technicolor Dreamcoat. But this coat, and Joseph's older brothers were jealous, understandably, because Joseph, bless his heart, he was a little snot. Not intentionally, I don't believe. I think he just had in his youth, mastered the art of timing and delivery. You can give anybody any kind of news, but you got to time it well and you got to deliver it well. And here's Joseph, I guess, either clueless, either inept, or simply filled with courage and certainty as to who he is, telling his 10 older brothers, one day you all will bow down and worship me because I dreamt about it. Now, under normal circumstances, that wouldn't be, they'd ignore him. But he's spouting off this stuff about how they're going to worship him. The father is lavishing all this attention on him. Of course, they're going to get a little jealous. I don't blame them for doing that. Okay, I have a younger brother. He's 8 years younger than me. He got life a lot easier than I did. I was the guinea pig. I was the first. I was my mother's first child. So she was like this with me. With him, she was like this. And he would complain. I was like, dude, you don't know how good you have it. But I got jealous. So the brothers got jealous. And they took that jealousy and they put it into action. They sold Joseph off into slavery. He gets carted off to Egypt. He ends up working in the house of one of Pharaoh's guards, or chief of guards, Potiphar. And then Potiphar's wife decided to make some moves on Joseph. Joseph ran away. She got all upset about being spurned and rejected, said Joseph did some bad things to her. Joseph lands in prison. While Joseph is in prison, some people started to have dreams. He found himself in prison with the Pharaoh's baker and also the Pharaoh's cupbearer, and they're having these weird dreams, and Joseph is interpreting their dreams because this is his gift. This is his gift, and we can interpret that to say that he was so much in touch with the divine of all that is, that he could see the big picture of things and what these dreams represent. So Joseph is interpreting these dreams. These guys this is a real quick version. These guys get out of prison. They forget about Joseph. A couple years later, Pharaoh is having some weird dreams, and they were like, oh yeah, we know a dude. We met a dude back in the big house who could interpret dreams. So Pharaoh gets Joseph. Joseph interprets the dreams, and the dream was basically saying, there's going to be a famine coming. Start storing up your extra food now. They did that. Egypt had all the food. The famine came, and they were saved. They were saved, and everybody from all the surrounding lands used to come to Egypt to get food. Egypt became rich. Pharaoh rewarded Joseph, and Joseph basically was promoted eventually to the role of vizier, or he was like, what would we call that today? The COO, the chief operating officer of Egypt. Okay? So this little boy who would have dreams, and his brothers kicked him out, basically rose to like the second highest powerful position in Egypt. And eventually, his family from his homeland came to Egypt like everyone else to get food. And in order to do that, they had to have an audience with Joseph. And not recognizing him, they had to pay homage and tribute. They actually had to bow down before him, just like Joseph had predicted. Now, Joseph could have seized the moment and could have done what probably I would have done in that situation and went, ha, told you. But he didn't do that. He realized this was an opportunity to reconnect, not just with his brothers and his family and his homeland, but with his father as well. Joseph's, the mark of his hands was that idea of listening, intuiting, uncovering the deeper message that was appearing in the dreams of others. Joseph was very connected, I believe, to that one power and that one presence. Joseph was clear about who he was, and he was not afraid or ashamed of it. Personally, if I had 10 older brothers and I shared with them my gift of dream interpretation and they beat me up and kicked me out of the house, I probably would not share that with anyone again. I would suppress that. And we can all maybe think of a time when we may have shared a gift, and we have shared a talent, when we may have been ourselves, and the response was less than supportive. And what do? Sometimes it takes us years, decades to get to that point where we can reconnect with that and share it, and live it, and be it. So what is the mark of our hands? What's carrying us? What are we filling our lives with? The truth of who we are as individuals, or the message that we have received from others who may have been less than supportive? It's best illustrated with this diagram that I found. And I shared it this week in the letter that I send out, in the email, speaking about what's next for me. And by the way, some of you were just so sweet and supportive when I shared that. Made me weep a little bit, inside and out. But ideally, we're somewhere here. There are things we love. There are things the world needs that we can do. The things which we are good at. Things for which we get paid. And the intersection of these is our passion, our mission, our profession, and our vocation. And the sweet spot where all these intersect, is our purpose. Our purpose. This is the mark of our hands. Our purpose is why we are here. Our purpose is what we fill our hands, our life with. Our purpose is what carries us. Our purpose is what allows us to take another breath when we have been trodden down. Take that breath to maybe get up on one knee, then maybe two knees, then maybe to stand and to keep moving. Our purpose is what we feel when we find ourselves in that role, whether it's our job or hobby or vacation, whatever, that brings us the exuberance of joy, that makes us feel fulfilled, that makes us feel connected. Our purpose, this is the mark of our hands. Now, our purpose doesn't necessarily need to be our job. Please, no one go quit their job tomorrow. Okay? But we know when we're living on purpose. We know when we are on purpose. Joseph maintained that purpose throughout his whole life. No matter what situation he was in, no matter where he found himself, whether it was under the fists and the feet of his brothers, or in jail, or standing before the most powerful ruler in the world at that time, Joseph was clear about who he was. Now, in Unity, we look at the Bible not as literal stories that happen, but what is that metaphysical meaning for us? Joseph represents in us an increase in character when we are aligned with Spirit, an increase in character in all areas when we are aligned with Spirit, when we are living our purpose, when we are living that thing within us that makes us sing, that makes us soar. That's when we're living Spirit. That's when we're doing the will of God. That is when we're being carried. That is when we leave behind an impression. That's when people will say, God was here. That's why we're here. If people ever wonder what the meaning of life is, it is simply this: to be God here. To be God here. What will be the mark of your hands? What will be the impression you leave behind? That's the question I want you to take with you this week. Live your purpose. Leave your mark. Namaste.